Buchanan.
This is Glasgow.
I'm trying to think. Oswald was another one. They were known. They were big tobacco barons. And if you ever come back to Scotland again, and Jim will like me for saying this, please visit Glasgow. They are the nicest of the nicest people, honestly. They're not snooty or aloof or anything like that. What you see is what you get. If a Glaswegian saw you standing, they'll stop and ask you, are you okay for directions? Or they'll ask you for money, one or the other. But more than likely, no, honestly, they'll ask you, are you okay? And that doesn't matter what religion they come from. They're noted for it. They have great wit and everything like that. They're very, very decent. And they've good character. And the architecture of Glasgow is far superior than the architecture of Edinburgh. But what you don't see is when you go through Glasgow, all you see is the 1960s and 1970s and 80s modern type of, facades on the first floor or the street level floor, where you have these dingy little kind of cheap shops and things like that. But if you ever go to Glasgow, forget about those dingy shops, look high. You'll see some of the finest, beautiful cut stone. There's two types of stone they use there. This one is called a blonde sandstone, and that would have been, most of that was taken from where Queen Street station is now. There used to be a quarry there, Queen Street, and it was bombed as well during the Second World War. And the other one is a red stone that comes from not too far from where we're going for our ferry, a place called Dumfriesshire. But they're lovely people, genuinely lovely people. Aren't they, Jim?
Oh, of course.
Just a wee smoking donut with a drunken Doris. Now, Scotland, Glasgow is more or less set up, and it's one of the oldest buildings. Dates back to 1492, and the Province Lordship, that's the name of the building. I can tell you a little bit about it because I used to do the guiding in Glasgow. But there's a beautiful cathedral there, and it's called St. Mungo's. It's known as Glasgow Cathedral. It's a Presbyterian cathedral, but it was formerly, a Catholic cathedral. Again, it's a must if you go to, if you're into old transport, trains and buses. It has, again, fantastic, and all the museums there are free. The Kelvin Grove is another one that's there. So it was huge. The World Trade Fair was held there in the early 1920s, and it got a really good injection of new life recently. And the Commonwealth Games were held here a few years ago, and the whole place got a whole new facelift. It's becoming very fashionable in Glasgow. Now we can do no more for your crowd.
It is. I just don't stay there, that's it.
Would you like to stay there?
For the night?
So we're heading down this road now, Prestwick Airport, Kilmarnock, M77. And to take you back, because I don't get too long to speak to you, when we get into Belfast to tell you about all the stuff that happened. So I need to get you to the troubled times. So, we know now about the penal laws, and we know about the Irish Parliament voting itself out of existence. And of course the Industrial Revolution has all fired up at this stage. And with that Industrial Revolution, this part of the United Kingdom, Glasgow in particular, they built 35,000 ships in this city. From the 1700s on. Belfast was similar to it. You wouldn't have built as many ships now in Belfast, but it was becoming a big industrial city. And Belfast, while it was in Ireland, was set up mostly by those Ulster Scots Presbyterians. And they were very industrious, as I said, and rope making, linen making, distilling, shipbuilding, of course, very, very important in Belfast. Rope making was a part of it. There's a lot of ropes are used in shipping and everything like that. And of course the tobacco barons brought stuff over and back across the Americas from the Americas all the time as well. So Belfast is set up, and it was known as Linenopolis one time. There were 35 linen mills. I don't know if you know how linen is produced, but it's grown from a seed, flax seed. Then there was a bit of a persecution against another type of Protestantism in France called the Huguenots, the French Huguenots. A lot of them came to Ireland, and they had developed the skills for mass production of the beating of the flaxseed to turn it into linen. And Irish linen and Belfast linen in particular became very, very popular, and still is if you can get it today. Still, but it would be very, very expensive. So very industrious. So new cities, Belfast of course was a new city set up, and new towns, Newton Stewart, Newtown Cunningham and places like that, and these became the part of Ireland that had especially Presbyterian people coming in and settling and with their industry and their Presbyterian ethos setting up these little towns in Ireland. But the rest of Ireland doesn't get much benefit. Dublin would of course, Limerick a little bit, and Cork, but very few other places had any benefit from the Industrial Revolution. Now, in 1775, there's a man born down in County Kerry in Ireland, and that man's name is Daniel O'Connell, and that's the guy I'm supposed to be a descendant of. So Daniel O'Connell was a barrister, but he went away and he saw the atrocities of the French Revolution, got educated in France, staunchly Catholic, came back and managed, during the beginning of the relaxation of penal laws, managed to get elected, now not for an Irish Parliament, but for an Irish party within the British Parliament. And he was a great orator. There used to be as many as 50,000 people at his political rallies. But he was a pacifist, and he preached, for not for a united Ireland free from Britain, but an Ireland of equal opportunity and rights for regardless of class, colour or creed. I know that most of you, if you're from the United States, so you will have heard of Frederick Douglass.
Yeah.
Is that right, Frederick Douglass, the man?
Yes.
Yes, well,
Sure.
he would have been very much into the teachings and readings of Daniel O'Connell. So O'Connell sees the atrocities of that French Revolution, comes back to Ireland and agitates politically with these monster rallies, and gets what's known in 1828 and 1829 is the Emancipation Act. And that really puts an end to penal laws. So really the British establishment had accepted that regardless of your religious beliefs, you were entitled to the same rights as anyone else, and which was good. And that should have been the end of it. Ireland should have fell into line, and we all should have been happy British Irish citizens under the one banner. After all, hadn't we been that way for hundreds of years? And we would have fought their wars for them and everything like that. But they made a huge mistake. And the mistake they made was, after the rebellion of 1798, when they killed these people, any child that was born after that was born with a chip on their shoulder, because this is what we've been taught. Ask me how I know it. I was born into one of these houses. And they took our language away, they took our religion away, they beat the language out of the people. They took their religion away, they kicked them off their own lands. They promised them everything and fulfilled no promises. And of course, when the wealthy landowners and politicians voted themselves out of existence, they only voted themselves out of an Irish Parliament to get themselves safely into Westminster in London. They still held title to the land, and what a lot of them did was cruel. That land then was managed by English, by Scottish, and even Irish people don't like this, by cruel Irish land agents. because Ireland was predominantly Catholic and the teachings of the Catholic Church is no birth control, we had mass population explosions. The Irish population increased to over 8.2 million people around the middle of the 19th century, from 1845 to 1849. Unfortunately at that time, agricultural science hadn't been as advanced as it is nowadays. So people that were renting land from the land agents, because the land agents demanded profit, because they had to pay their absentee landlords, and they demanded, so people had nothing to eat because there was no industry. They had become dependent on one variety of potato called the lumper potato. Because they were being displaced and the population was exploding, families, it wouldn't be uncommon. I'm the oldest of 10 children. A woman across the street from us in the 1950s had 23 children. It wouldn't be uncommon for an Irishman to eat 14 pounds of potatoes a day. Why? There was no engine labour, everything was manual labour if they got it. That's all they had to eat. So they would grow their lumper potato. Now a blight came on the potato crop over a period of years. It didn't just happen in Ireland, it happened in Scotland and England as well. But the bulk of the populations there weren't as dependent on the potato crop as the Irish were, the peasant Irish. And why were the Irish depending on it? Well, it goes back to paying the land agents. Because anything that was born with 4 legs had to be sold and marked to help to pay the rent. Now, you will often see in old film reel the red coats coming along, the police, and they use a thing called a battering ram. When the people can't afford to pay the rent, they will evict them from their houses. Remember now, the whole establishment is against the person that can't pay the rent, because the landlord owns the house. He's also the local magistrate. He is also in charge of the constabulary, so he has everything on his side. But a lot of them had been absent, so the land agent takes his place. Now, it would be wrong of people to think that anyone that couldn't pay the rent were evicted and they came in with a battering ram and knocked the house down. The reality of it is, some of the Catholic people would be glad if a Catholic family was evicted, because at least this gave a home for some of their children if they could afford it. So it's never as black and white as it seems. But anyway, as a result of that famine, you can divide the populations into the countries that you come from. The Irish nation lost a quarter of its population. Over 1 million people emigrated, mostly to Canada, the United States, but wait for it, England. The city of Liverpool in England, over that 5-year period, took in 150,000 Irish people. The Protestant churches were very good to the famine Irish. Again, it was, there were some politicians said, they're breeding like rabbits, they won't do as they're told, they're dirty, rude, illiterate, pugnacious, drunken, let them eat grass. The English people are not like that. Some of the establishment at the time were like that, but the English people are not like that. The English people are some of the most decent people you will ever find. So the Protestant churches gave a lot, and remember, it's an epidemic. The Catholic Church as well. So if you were the mother of a family and there was nothing, now there's no welfare system at the time. These people didn't have shoes. So you would be sometimes evicted from your house, but you would walk along, and where you would go to is the nearest big house. More than often than not, it was a church. The priests gave whatever they had. Some of the landlords were the greatest of all. Not all the landlords were bad. A lot of them impoverished themselves. Remember, over 1 million people emigrated. You could buy food here, but the bulk of the population didn't have money. The finest, it was a blight on a potato crop. They call it the Great Irish Potato Famine. It's wrong to call it that. Famine only occurs in countries where there's bad climate, and seeds get burned in the ground, and it's arid or whatever the case may be, or because of war, crops have been burnt and everything like that. That didn't happen in Ireland. It was just the disease came in one variety of food that most of the people depended on. Two very good communities were very good to the starving Irish. That was a Jewish community in New York, gave everything they had for them. And the other was the Choctaw Indians. The Choctaw Indians probably killed more Irish than they saved, because they sent over a boatload of Indian cornmeal. Now the Irish digestive system had collapsed at that time, and so they wouldn't have been able for it, but that's neither here nor there. The intent was good. The English people gave an awful lot. Now some Irish people never kind of admit to this, but they did give an awful lot. And England has always been very good to Ireland. I know we've had our differences and everything like that, but in times of trouble, England has always been good. It has always been a place where the Irish have gone and sought work. It's a place where they can